Okay, hello. I've done a lot of camera videos, as you'll probably know if you've seen, and occasionally just crops up something that, I don't know, I was going to say special, but I don't know, I guess it's not really that special, but something just a little bit more interesting than generally what I've seen in the past. And this, I think, falls into that category. So what we have here is a original, presumably leather case, and what you probably can't see is here is written Polaroid. So I saw this on eBay, no bids. I knew full well it was pretty useless as an actual practical camera, but it was just one of those things that I just couldn't quite say no to. So let's have a look. I won't go too much into the history of Polaroid, etc., but this is towards the beginning of the Polaroid story, I would say. As I say, it is useless as a camera due to the lack of film, because some of the reasonably old but different cameras, sort of similar age really, can still be used. This one, really not likely unless you can modify it. And now, I don't know how easy this is to be able to see. I'm going to have to move the package in a minute, I think. If I put that there, oh, that is heavy. I mean, that is like, I can pick that up with one hand, but if I held that for more than a minute or two, I'm probably going to drop it. That is heavy. That is seriously heavy. So there's the camera. Just checking the focus on this thing is okay. Let's move things down this way a little bit. So we'll come back to this. So here's the camera. I mean, there's my hand. Trying to find something to give you some more sense of scale, but there's a mouse. So it is huge. It is a huge beast of a camera, and that's obviously folded flat. But we'll come back to that. So what else have I got in this box? Well, one of the obvious things that I saw was this, which is a Polaroid wink light. I don't think this camera focuses that close, this lens focuses that close, but that is a Polaroid wink light. And you think, well, that's a flash. But cameras of this age did not have electronic flashes. They had flash bulbs, one-use flash bulbs. So you took the picture, the flash bulb went off, and you ejected it, this boiling hot flash bulb, and that was done. You put a new one in. This is, I've already unscrewed this in preparation because I was pretty sure, because it's reasonably heavy, so I was thinking the battery is obviously still in here, and we're going to have a problem, no doubt, with corrosion. So there is one screw here, and it even says quite nicely on there to turn it 5 times to get it out. I had to turn it a little bit more than that. But anyway, and we take that off, and what we have is basically a bulb and a huge battery. And the battery says ever ready number 460, 45 volts, which is quite incredible, really. 45, I would have thought. I mean, obviously you're not going to get a huge amount of amperage out of something like that, but 45 would be enough, I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't want to put my tongue across it, put it that way. 45, I'm pretty sure would be enough to make you know about it. I don't think it's going to hurt you that much, but you'd know, I'm pretty sure. Well, what is amazing is that has not corroded. I mean, I'm guessing obviously the contacts on the top may have a little bit of crust or whatever just on the contacts, but itself, it looks fine. I mean, for all I know, this battery was replaced in the last kind of 20 or 30 years instead of 50 years, but it certainly looks pretty old. And it is a photographic flash battery, so that's kind of what it's designed for. So there we go, but basically you couldn't get much simpler than that. It is just a little torch bulb. But apparently, I just read online briefly that the bulb is just a 12 volt bulb, and the idea was if you blast 45 volts through it for only a short time, you'll get away with it and get an extra bright flash. So that was kind of one of the first reusable flashes, I would guess. Quite interesting. And apparently when you bought a new battery, you got a new bulb because more than likely it was going to wear out because you're blasting 3 or 4 times the voltage through it. Anyway, so flash, we'll put that down. What else have we got? We have basically a filter, what I suppose you would now call a neutral density filter. So this is a light reducer for 3000 film outdoors. Polaroid, even back in the 60s, were doing a 3000 ISO film, black and white film, and this was for using that film outdoors. So, and from reading some of the instructions, which we'll get to, that takes it down to ISO 200. So that is a seriously dark filter. I mean, I could put this over this lens and you'll see nothing because it is basically I mean, I can just see through it. So that's what that was for. Still in its nice little original case. I'll put that to the side. This, I don't know what that is. Some kind of washer thing. No idea. This whole box just smells of old people's houses. It's something that I've definitely smelt in my dim and distant past. I think it might be mothballs, possibly. There's the key, by the way. Looks like it's still neatly tied to the inside of the case. These are print mounts, which it would appear you mounted the prints to after they came out of the camera. And there is some instruction about these somewhere in here. I think you got these with the set of film, with a roll of film. So yeah, I've got a set of those. Now here's what is very interesting. We have a roll of Polaroid colour film, and as you can see, it is a roll, or there are rolls involved. Now, I've only looked at this briefly online, but I think you're supposed to have 2 rolls, and I wonder whether it's a situation like you would have with a 120 roll, standard like 120 roll film, where you're supposed to have a roll in the camera from the previous roll, and you roll onto it. So you would roll this, you would attach, I don't know, I'm not going to go too crazy with this, because I mean this is almost certainly utterly useless, but it's not going to stop me loading it in the camera at some point and at least attempting something. So what's unusual about this is this was pretty new. It even says new, in that I don't think they did a colour film when this camera was launched, or when many of the cameras this would fit were launched. So this was like an upgrade, as it were, for your existing camera. And there's lots of do's and don'ts about, oh, this new colour film, this is how you can use it. Now it says this process uses an alkaline developer which is safely packed inside the positive roll, and in brackets, of course, children should not be allowed to take the roll apart. The solution trapped in the end of the discarded negative is still alkaline. Avoid contact with eyes. Blah 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 about washing, etc. Caution, load only in shade or subdued light. Well, yeah. So really, apparently what you had here was two rolls effectively together, one positive, one negative, and you would shoot onto the negative, obviously, and then it would be pressed through rollers with the other half and release chemicals which would develop it onto a positive image. Something like that anyway. So 6 colour pictures, 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 inches. Amazing that that's still in here. I've not seen any of these before. That outer thing, I presume you would peel this off here and go at it, but I'm not going to do that because I need to think about that a little bit more. I have read quickly online how that kind of works, but I mean, to be honest, it isn't going to work. It just isn't, is it? But I have heard of the odd experiment with this kind of stuff, and it hasn't worked. The developer will be almost certainly bad, because this looks old. I think they did make this stuff up into the 80s or something, which may have expired in the early 90s or something, but there's no way that came from any, that this is probably 60s or 70s, and it's been opened oddly. I don't know why you would open it and not use it yet, but anyway. What else have we got? Nothing in there. Oh. Aha. Now this, I've since discovered, if you're finding that your wink light, and let's face it, a flash called a wink light, is obviously not going to be up to too much, you could attach this, which is basically a standard flash bulb holder with its little eject button here. And basically what that allowed you to do, I'm a little bit scared somehow to mount this, in case I get horribly electrocuted, is, which I doubt, but is to shove that in the top here. There's some holes in the top, and that would bypass the weedy little bulb in here and give you a proper flash bulb, which obviously you would fit into the holder. So we've got the full kit pretty much, haven't we? What else have we got? We have quite a bit of documentation. So, what do we have? We have how to use Polar Colour film Type 48. Just as well, because I wouldn't have a clue how to use that. So that is a decent guide to how to using the colour film. As I say, that seems to have been a new invention, sort of after the cameras, a lot of the cameras were released, so that was that. That says, important, remove the instruction card on the back door of your camera before using new 3000 speed film. Sometimes these cards permit tiny light leaks that will fog this extremely sensitive film. Now what's this is saying, when we look at the back of the camera, there's like an instruction sheet stuck to the back of the camera, and that explains how to actually use the damn thing. And that's saying that somehow that instruction card would cause light leaks. I don't know how removing a card off the back of the camera would prevent light leaks, but there's obviously some sense to that somewhere. However, I've noticed on the card, when we look at the camera, it does actually say that this is a new card which will not cause light leaks, so that's presumably redundant. We have how to use the light reducer, which we saw, which was the filter for the front of the camera. All of this in really, really good condition. How to take pictures without flash bulbs with your wink light, repeating wink light. And basically, the idea of this wink light is that this 3000 speed film was so sensitive in the first place that inside you could just kind of fill in the shadows with the wink light instead of a real flash. Don't know if that's Edwin Land or somebody. Probably not. No, it's actually a small child looking at that picture. Anyway, or a very geeky, young-looking scientist. So it just explains how to do different situations. We have a Caconet instruction book. Looking through that, that looks like to be for another flash, which I don't have. For a electronic flash, probably one of the first proper electronic flashes. So of no real use other than it's in perfect condition and interesting, I suppose, and it's vaguely in its own right. And then some of the more interesting things we have. Basically, a copy of a hire purchase agreement from the 21st of May, I think that says. 1957, I think that is, for Mrs. Elsie Florence Carey, with a London address. However, I don't think this is for this camera, because it says something about Contina something and case, and then gives a number and a something flash gun, and she paid £45 for the camera and £4 1 pence for the flash, and then paid, looks like, 20 quid and then owed the rest, and decided to pay 8 instalments of £3, 17 shillings 11 pence. So obviously this is pre-decimalisation. For those who don't know, Britain before 1971, I think it was, didn't use a decimalised currency, so we had pounds, shilling and pence. Yeah. So I'll have to look up what that camera is. I don't think that's actually related to this one. And then oddly we have an address: Spot the Ball, number 1628, News of the World, Pump Yard, Manchester. So that's an address, presumably before postcodes were introduced. And that is somebody's entry into the Spot the Ball competition from the News of the World. And that would be a competition in the newspaper, they probably still do this, I'm not sure, where there would be a football, soccer for Americans, match, and it would show you a goal with a goalkeeper jumping usually to save the ball, and but the ball had been magically erased from the picture, and you had to decide where the ball was and put an X, I think, in a box, and if you got it right you won some money. However, when you look at what's in there, I don't know, I'm guessing their entry never made it, because what we actually have in here is, they also like buying stuff on credit. I'm guessing getting credit in the late 50s, early 60s was not the easiest thing. It's not like everyone had a credit card. I'm not even sure credit cards existed. So, interesting from that point of view, but I suppose your local shop, camera shop, was probably more likely to lend you money than it would be now. You'd probably have to lend it to them now. So again, Mrs. E. Carey. Don't know if that's actually the same address, I'll have to check. But we're talking London here. And this is the 8th of February 63. And this is talking about the amounts to pay and how often. And oh yeah, look, we have the amounts paid. So it looks like she paid it pretty regularly. Now, it has a total there of £76, no shillings and 11 pence. And I think if we look in here, we will have, oh god, no, lots more. Here's the original receipt for our Polaroid land camera. From Kensington Cameras Limited, 264 Earls Court, London, SW5, for Mrs. E. Carey on the 12th of the 2nd, 1963. And she has bought a Model 850 Polaroid land camera for £109, 2 shillings and 11 pence. Which is quite shocking. and a deluxe carrying case for £10, 16 shillings 7 pence, and Polaroid Wink 8, I think that says, or light, sorry. Polaroid Wink Light, £11, 4 shillings 11 pence, for a total of £131, 3 shillings and 7 or 4 pence, something like that. And just out of curiosity, it's actually quite easy to work out how much that is, because I have a inflation calculator in front of me online, and interestingly, when you put it back to 1963, it does indeed switch to pounds, shilling and pence. So let's put that in. That comes out at £2,327.58. So no wonder she had to pay it in instalments. That's probably more, yeah, that is more than buying a full frame DSLR with a, certainly without a lens, probably, yeah, so I guess it's probably the equivalent of buying a DSLR, full frame, decent Canon, whatever they are, 5D Mark III or whatever, a decent lens and a flash. That's probably not far off the same price, which is insane. So, and of course it's all these things, these receipts that got me, that just meant I spent 20 quid on this camera when it's of complete no use whatsoever to me. And there is her second receipt for the deposit that she paid of £40. So she paid 40 quid up front, and then they presumably trusted her for the rest, or sent someone around to break her legs if she didn't pay. I don't know. So let's just shove those bits back in our spot the ball competition envelope, and we'll have a quick look around the camera. The camera does take a battery, but for the life of me I can't work out where it goes. But there is the camera. Now, I have worked out more or less how to open it and set it up. I think, you kind of want to use it this way, but really I don't think that was necessarily the way it was intended to be used most of the time. I suppose it depends whether you want to take a landscape or a portrait. In fact, really, just like it would with any other camera, that would be for a landscape. So, well, let's see if we can do it this way. So we squeeze those tabs in. Can open up to here. And it's just sort of amazing, like how in the lid everything is so kind of exposed and seemingly quite primitive. And then let's see if I can do this properly. We pull that out along its track. This was a little stiff and I didn't want to pull it when I first did it, but oh, there we go. As far as I can see, the bellows are intact. I can't see any cracks, or I mean they do creak a bit, but they seem pretty intact. Oh god, that is heavy. I mean, I can pick it up, but seriously, that is crazy. And if you flick that out, after I realised what it was, I thought it was to open the front first. Pretty sure that is, yeah, I think that's a stand. So that would be the other way of having this thing. Can't get it in the frame that way, but you get the impression, get the idea. So let's put it back down this way, wrong way up. So there it is, and the flash would sit on top here, and we have a viewfinder and a rangefinder, and if we swing it round, you'll see what I meant by instructions, because there are a great big, if the camera ever bothers to focus, which probably won't, so we'll just carry on regardless and hope for the best. Oh, there we go. Abbreviated instructions, it says. You know, it's slightly ridiculous, but I'm not even certain where the shutter release is. And I'm usually pretty good at these things. But anyway, I'll soldier on. What I can do is open the back. When you'd taken a picture and you'd pulled out the, I don't know what you'd do, I don't know the exact process, you would pull something, I think you pulled the previous negative or a blank slide out of the camera, pulled that off, tore it off because it's on a roll, then that had pulled your picture through some sort of rollers or somewhere, and then eventually, when it was ready, after the developed time, because it would develop in the camera, I think, you would then snap the back open, your picture would be here, and you would pull it and it would tear off. They were perforated, I think, and so your picture would be here. So that's kind of one cover, and then if I do that, we get that full cover. When you can see, you'd put a roll of film in here, I presume, and then this side also opens as well, and you can see the bellows in, if the camera would be able to do that, which you can't. So the bellows extend into here. Not sure what happened there. Possibly the camera gave up for a minute there, or reached its maximum video time, or maybe nothing happened and I'm just being paranoid, but I've just stopped it and started it again. If we spin it around again, let's have a look at the front here. I should say this is the Polaroid Electric Eye 850, as is printed on the front here. I can adjust whether it's normal day normal outdoor, or indoor day or indoor night. So that's kind of like light and dark. It sort of says to darken, slide this way. We have on the front whether we're going to use manual or electric. So I presume I can use it without. I've just found the shutter release. It seems to be built into here. That's not where I imagined it to be. Interesting. You can see something going on in the shutter. So I can now recock the shutter and release it. Interesting. So that was on manual. If I do it on automatic or electric, interesting. I'm not sure what's happening there, apart from it looks like when I press that down the lens is opening and not. Something's opening. Maybe that's just doing the aperture effectively. I wonder. Watch it slowly. Yes, it looks like that's opening an aperture blade, some aperture blades. So you have to cock the shutter here. So when you fire it, it fires up. So interesting. I am getting two clunks there. And if I cover up the, doesn't seem to make much difference. I mean, you'd be surprised if the battery worked. Seem to get the same noise whatever I do. Which, fair enough. At least I've worked out to fire the shutter. I'm just trying to think how you would hold this, and it's bizarre. And you'd be looking through, holding the camera like this, and then firing away, I guess. Just tempting to hold it to my face. But you'll also see on the back here we have two viewfinder windows by the looks of it, but one is a viewfinder to compose your shot and one is a rangefinder to focus. And there is a wheel on here on the side which unceremoniously moves the bellows backwards and forwards on the track to focus your lens. So very rudimentary. I'll just have a look, see if that works. It does, except I'm getting more out of focus, not in focus. So yeah, it would appear the minimum focus distance on this is at least a metre, probably a little bit more before I can get something in focus. I think there's a guide in here. It's in feet, obviously. Yeah, 3.5 is the minimum specified, but I've actually gone below that. So I'm guessing about 3 feet. So yeah, about a metre. So there we go. I don't know what else to say. It's huge. It's beautiful. Ridiculous. I don't know. Cock shutter. Was that not the button? Was it the other side? Oh dear. I just struggle to imagine somebody carrying this around. Certainly not the kind of thing that's going to fit in your purse or your handbag or whatever, Miss E, whatever her name was. But I will do a little bit more snooping around, just check she's not like a super famous photographer, because let's face it, if you're spending that much on a camera you must have had plenty of money. But then I guess people in London, as they do now, would have had plenty of money in those days as well. So maybe it's not too hard to believe that someone would buy it as a toy. I'll also check the address on Google Maps, do a bit of stalking that way, just out of interest. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I've got a consignment almost of newer Polaroid automatic land cameras, the sort of 100s, 200s, 300s, 400s. Anything that says Polaroid automatic land camera and has a 1 to 400-ish, I think they are, just anything with a 1, 2, 3 or 400. Nothing with these like electric eye or any of that gubbins. They still have a bellows, but I'm hoping they're a little bit lighter than this. Those you can still get Fuji pack film for, brand new, and I have a handful of those winging their way to me as I speak. And I'll do some videos on those, but that said, if you're interested in those, look up on YouTube or Google the Film Photography Podcast. The guy on there, Mike, is obsessed with the damn things, so he's probably done a far better job than I would ever do. These, as I say, pretty useless. I think you can potentially convert them to pack film, the Fuji film, but it's not going to be easy or particularly graceful. You can possibly also convert them to 120 roll film. I suppose anything you can really get in there, as long as it follows the same plane, the same distance, maintains the same distance from the lens, it's going to work to some extent. You'd probably have to get it out in the dark and re-spool it back onto another spool or something, because there's no kind of rewind here. But it's just a very interesting camera, I thought, and you kind of wonder whether it's ever been used. I mean, I say this about a lot of things I buy that are immaculate, but I suppose if you'd paid £2 for the damn thing, you would look after it. But you kind of wonder, you know, is that roll of film in the box, in the case, is that the original one that came with it? Is that the one the dealer threw in to sweeten the deal? Did it ever get any further than that? I don't know. And I guess I never will. But there we go. I've rattled on long enough about this, so I will do a video of getting the film in there and potentially shooting it and seeing what happens. I know what's going to happen, nothing, but it'll still be interesting to at least go through the motions, I suppose. So watch out for that one coming soon. Thanks very much for watching.